Hi, welcome to Empty Nest Creations. My name is Wendy. I'm the owner and creator here. Today we're going to be working on the second sewing machine box, and this will be the second in the series. And I'm going to start off by painting this one with two coats. I'm using silk all-in-one paint in the color Oyster. And I sped this up because watching someone else paint is not the most fun thing. But as you can see, I'm going with the wood grain. I find that just helps to have a nice smooth coat. I'm going to paint all the sides and then just the top edge with this paint. I'm going to leave the inside the dark wood. I just like having some of the natural wood show through. I hope you all are having a good week and things are going well with you. As always, if you like this content, be sure to like and share this video. That's going to help the channel grow and reach more people. So here we are starting on the second coat. And that first coat, because it's dark wood and a light white paint, this is kind of a creamy white color. But because of that first coat, you can see some of the wood showing through. And we're going to use some decoupage paper on this box. So we want to make sure that we've got a nice coat of white as a base there. Just to make sure that, the paper pops on this piece. Here you see me doing that top edge, just getting it really good. And if any gets on the inside, you can just use a wipe to wipe it off. If you do it while it's still wet, this paint will wipe off pretty easy. But this paint does have a primer in it, so you want to do that while the paint is still wet. So here, I left this in because I'm an impatient crafter, and I want you to see that you can use a heat tool to dry this paint. You just want to keep your heat tool moving as you dry it. So here I'm showing you that second coat really covered pretty well. But because we're going to use the decoupage paper, you're not going to need to do a third coat. If I was going to leave it the paint, I would definitely put a third coat on there just to make sure that it's all covered really well. I'm going to be using a piece of decoupage paper. This is by Roycycled, and it's the bird ephemera paper. And I've used part of this paper before. This is a large sheet, so you can usually get multiple projects out of it. And I used the bird part on a different project. But for this one, I'm going to be using the flower. You see that hydrangea there? I'm going to cut this down and use it to wrap around this box. So here I'm trying to decide where I want the paper, which part I want to use. And you'll see in a minute, I'm going to lay it down and use a pencil to measure it out. And then I'll cut two pieces that are about the same width to wrap around the entire box. The great thing about these decoupage papers is that you can use different pieces and splice them together. And you really can't tell because it's got various images all over the paper. When you splice it together or piece it together, it just looks like it's supposed to be that way. So here I'm just using a pencil and measuring out. I want to leave a little bit of overhang just so I can make sure I get good coverage. And then we'll cut out two pieces and then we'll get started with the decoupaging. I'm going slow so I can make sure I cut a nice straight line. So if you're enjoying this kind of content, I really would appreciate it if you would subscribe and click the bell notification. That way you can be notified when I upload a new video, and follow along as we do some of these thrift flips. Like I said, this is going to be a series, so I've already done the first box, and there'll be one more in that's like this one, and then I've got 2 other drawers that are a little bit different. I'll be doing something different with those. So here I'm showing you the flower design on there, and I'm trying to decide, there's a top part of the flower and a bottom part of the flower, and the one has a big leaf on it. So see, I'm showing you the leaf there, and just trying to decide which one I want on the front. Later, I decided it really doesn't matter because it's a box, and it really doesn't have a front or back, because we're not putting a handle on this one. So you could, it doesn't really matter. But I'm going to start off with the one with the leaf, and I'm going to put it on that end piece. So here I'm showing you the Decoupage gel that I'm going to be using. This is Decoupage gel by Redesign. This is a newer product to me. I'm trying it out, and I really do like it. It goes on really smooth. And helps to, have less wrinkles in your finished product. You want to put on a good amount, a liberal amount of the gel onto your piece. And I work in small sections. I'm going to do this front piece. And then we're going to move around the piece doing one section at a time. And you saw that I misted the paper. That seems to help getting it to lay down flat. And you'll see that I put it on, and you can, if you work quickly, you can reposition it, and you'll see that I do that. I lift it up a little bit and then lay it back down just to help make it smooth. I use my fingers. Sometimes I'll use saran wrap, depending on what I'm working with, or plastic wrap, just to help to lay things down smooth. Especially if I'm using a napkin or something like that, I may use the plastic wrap. But this seemed to do just fine with just my fingers. And you see I did pick it up and reposition it a little bit. And you can do that if you work quickly. If it's been laying down for 30 seconds or so, you probably don't want to lift it back up because you might tear your paper. But once I get it laid down, I go back over the top with a layer of the Decoupage gel, and this just seals it in. And I'm going to flip it over and work on this side. I'm using some, just some lids, like jar lids. I save all those. I use the jars for different things, and I save the lids, and I have a basket full of them. And they just work really great to lift your projects up off the surface. And because I put Decoupage gel on the outside of that paper already, I want it to be lifted up some so it doesn't stick to my surface. So here you see I'm doing a small section on the side, and I just hold it up and use my hand to lay it down smoothly. This helps to keep the wrinkles out. With Decoupage, wrinkles are just kind of a part of it, and you're going to get some wrinkles, but this helps you to keep from getting the big wrinkles. If you just do a little piece and smooth it down as you lay it down, it helps it to lay down smoother, and you get fewer wrinkles that way. Now here you saw me lift it back up, and the reason I'm doing that is because I didn't do a good job lining it up in the front, so it's not quite touching that top edge. So I would recommend cutting a bigger piece so you have a little more overhang on the top and bottom to alleviate that. It's really not going to matter in the end, because I'm going to go back and sand some of the edges, and so it'll look fine. But I did really want it to cover the whole piece, and I'll show you in a minute where that didn't quite touch that top edge, so it left a little bit of the paint showing. But it's really not noticeable, and when I display the piece, I can always put something like greenery or something on that end to hide that it's not, but in the end it doesn't look bad. So I'm laying that end down, and then I'm going to start on the second strip. So I'm showing you here that it didn't quite touch that edge. It's a little bit lower on that side, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and put this second piece on, and I am going to overlap that corner edge. It's just a little bit, and you'll see in a minute. It's a very small strip, but I didn't want to cut it off at the corner because I thought the seam might be noticeable. So you'll see here, I overlap it a little bit and put this other end on. Again, make sure you put a liberal amount of your gel on there. You don't want so much that it squeezes out when you rub the paper down, but you want to have enough on there that it's really going to hold, and you've got coverage over the whole piece, so you don't get any air bubbles in there. Those will show up in your finished product. And I'm very awkward filming. I'm sorry. I have to keep turning it around so I can see what I'm doing. And this was a bigger, longer piece, so it's kind of awkward. Here it's out of frame again. I apologize for that, but I'll figure this out as we go. If I did this again, I would probably wait to put the decoupage gel on the top of the paper, because you'll see here I have a little bit of difficulty because I can't lay it on the table because it has wet decoupage gel on the outside, and so it would stick to the table. So I'm trying to figure out how to work with it and not let that wet gel touch the table. So that's something to keep in mind. It always seems that when you're crafting that you really need a third hand. It's hard to hold this and get the gel on and lay it down while holding it up off the table. That third hand would have come in handy. But we're almost to the end. I'm going to lay this piece down, and then I'm going to come in with some scissors and cut that edge and get it all laid down good. And here I'm just going back and smoothing it out. I saw some sections that were a little bubbled up, so I just went back in and smoothed it down really well. Now I'm going to cut that piece off and then make sure those edges are attached really well. Just going back in with some gel and making sure those are nice and sealed. And then I'm going to put that coat on the outside, and then we're going to let it dry. And it's really important that you let it completely dry before you move on to removing that excess paper. If it's damp still, when you try to sand those edges, you could rip your paper. So you just want to be careful while it's wet. So I'm going to use those lids again, and just set it on top of those lids, and let it dry completely. Here I'm just checking to make sure that all those edges and corners are down and sealed tight, and that I didn't miss any spots. Now when the gel's wet, it's going to have a kind of a gloss to it, so you can look at your piece and make sure you didn't miss any sections. Once it dries, it'll be matte, so you want to do that while it's still wet. Now here I'm coming in with some sandpaper, and I started out with 220, and it was a little awkward trying to get this paper off with that sandpaper. I did speed this up, but it took a little bit longer than it's showing here. I do switch to a excuse me, a 120 grit sandpaper wrapped around a sanding sponge, and that seemed to work a little bit better. But you just want to work your way around. You want to make sure that you're sanding down on the edge and not going side to side, because that could rip your paper as well. Excuse me. Here I've switched to the sanding sponge, and so it's coming off a little bit better. So I did the bottom, and then I'm going to do the top as well, just getting any hangover off. And I just go around and pull that paper off as it releases. And then you see here I'm pulling some more of that paper off, and I got some on the edge. It distressed it a little bit, so I'm just going back in and I'm distressing those edges of the paper to make that spot where it didn't quite line up, so it doesn't stand out so much. So I'm distressing all those edges, distressing the top a little bit, and then I'm going to just wipe off all the dust. And then we're going to move on to finishing our piece. So I'm going to put some little feet on this one, and I'm using some small beads. These are some dark brown wood beads that I got from the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to be using some of that glue that I used in the last project. It's kind of like a super glue, and it's got a spray accelerator. So I put a little bit of glue on each of the beads, and then set them where I want them. And again, these drawers have a little indented piece on each side where they slid in and out of the machine. And so I'm putting them just on that raised part, so they're a little inset. And then once I get them laid down, I spray them with the accelerator, which dries it pretty much instantly. I love that glue. And I got that on Amazon. And here it is, all finished and displayed. I just love how these are turning out. I think they're so cute. And they're perfect to use in your displays. So please leave me a comment below. Let me know what you thought about this project. Comments really do help channels to grow. So even if you just leave an emoji, That really does help. And again, remember to like and share this video and subscribe for more thrifting and upcycling. I really appreciate you spending your time with me today, and I look forward to joining you in the next video.